For anybody who does not know, the Agora is our monthly community meeting. So we do this every first Thursday of the month. Recently, we've been doing these on Twitter Spaces. However, after running into a few weeks of technical difficulties over on Spaces, we decided to give them some time to get their things together and move this to Discord. So we are in Discord this month. For today's agenda, we have other speakers with me: Ross, Archimedes lead product management, and Rafa, our CMO. And our topics will be including introduction, which I'm giving you right now, going through our roadmap and project management, marketing and biz dev updates, and then some of our recent successes and milestones. Oops, excuse me. Right after that, we'll be dropping into what we like to call a nerdy topic. So this is basically just answering some type of question that we've gotten in the community, which might be for the more technical audience, we'll say. And then as a topic before we wrap things up, we'll be doing our deep dive, which is when we go into a little bit more detail on some of the concepts surrounding Archimedes or DeFi as a whole. Then if there are any questions left, we can do a community-led Q&A, and we'll wrap up the day. Before we jump into things, I'll give you opportunity to say anything if we have any questions. All right. And just going to jump right into it then. Ross, if you would, please, can you give us an update on the Archimedes roadmap and developments?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alvin. So since the last Agora, we've had 2 audits, a smart contract update, which is completed, a few basic changes needed on that. We've had a front-end audit, which is still ongoing, but should finish in the next week or so. So since last Agora, we've really been focused 100% on user feedback, listening to users, understanding what's working, what's not working, and where to improve. So we made quite a few minor updates to the UI based on that. So we've simplified the UI quite a bit and created an advanced calculator, moved a lot of the complex stuff into a separate page out of the main UI, and add a lot of content around strategy and frequently asked questions. So right now, based on a lot of the feedback that we've been getting, we're pretty much mainly focused on V2 development. And that's kind of broken up into 2. We have refactoring of the smart contract. So this is required for us to add more strategies, more assets, leveraged assets, and more flexibility around strategy parameters. So a lot of work involved there, but once we get that completed, it means we can add a lot more options in terms of assets and positions for users. And then the second part is around the front end. We're doing a bit of a UI redesign, just really trying to simplify the UI and UX even more so. And yeah, that's kind of the main focus for the next 2 months. We hope next month on the next Agora, we probably be able to break things down a bit more into a bit more detail as to what we can expect for V2. But for now, we're just kind of deep in development. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ross. Yeah, Archimedes V2 is coming. I keep having to tell people that they're like, oh, what about this? What about that? It's like, devs are deving. There's a lot happening in the Archimedes ecosystem, whether you're paying attention, if you're paying attention to the website and all the different changes coming there, as well as just things moving in the background. So lots to look forward to at Archimedes. We're going to jump into our next topic, which is marketing and biz dev updates from Rafa.
Thanks, guys. And just adding a little bit too, also on what we're working, and that's more on the biz dev side, but also super highly related to our V2. We're also working on the vision for the Arch, which is our governance token, and which means we're going to be enabling soon staking of Arch. We're still defining, and again, very similar to what Ross was saying, we're still defining what kind of mechanisms we're going to start with. We prefer to release in small updates. So rather than coming to the vision, so we're going to go with an MVP, potentially with just the staking, mechanism with incentives for users to stake their Arch. And then we're going to evolve from there, getting to a full DAO model through the VE Arch project. So this is one of our main focuses on the BizDev and also a little bit of product side there. As far as partnerships go, we have a very exciting partnership being announced on Monday, and the product will already be live on Monday. So stay tuned. It will be a big one, and I'm sure the community will be very excited. It will benefit mainly LPs with Archimedes. We're also considering the different strategies that was mentioned for the V2. We're currently talking to projects that enable more familiar assets. This is one of the main feedback we got from users. So, for instance, anything related to ETH and other more flagship stablecoins that also provide interesting yield for the users. We're going to be enabling them in our V2. So examples there could be a all ETH from Archimedes, or potentially idle or Pendle strategies that we want to include. It's still in flux, and we're talking to different protocols there to see which one will be more attractive for us and for our users and the community in general. On top of that, we're also talking to DAOs to see if there is any potential for us to attract liquidity from DAO treasuries, which is very common practice in DeFi. So we're just starting the motion currently this week, which is also very exciting for us because we're also onboarding a new person to the BizDev marketing team next week, and we will be able to expand a little bit on our capacity in terms of more work there. Let me see if I'm missing something else. For now, I don't think so, but that's pretty much high level what we are doing. Also, low key, kind of thinking more long term, talking to all choose currently. So we have meetings with different layers and different chains out there. But more on the planning side, we're probably going to be able to release something in that direction more in Q3 or Q4. But we're already starting engagement with the different chains out there to make the decision of what would be the best for the community and also for the project. Yeah, so this is high level update from BizDev side and marketing.
Awesome.
Do you wanna add anything else, Alvin?
Yeah, the only other thing that I'll add from the community side would be like more so, I don't know, engagement, marketing, and what you guys are seeing in terms of content is, yeah, we're just working with different people, different, building relationships in the community, asking people, their opinion on Archimedes, what they think. So before we move forward with anything, we're doing a lot of measuring before taking any cuts in terms of development here. And yeah, we're just making sure that we really take what the community says into consideration. And other than listening to the community with our building and trying to make that as transparent as possible to people, we're really just trying to educate people in our content. So if you come up with any ideas or there's anything that you're thinking with Archimedes that you'd like more clarification around, feel free to let us know. Yeah, and that's really what we're focusing on right now, is just making sure that the community and anybody who might be interested in Archimedes understands all the different components. So look forward to increases in our YouTube channel over the next coming weeks. We've already started to do like TikTok videos, including transferring threads there. And yeah, just looking for more ways to communicate with you guys. So cool.
Yeah, and just adding one more thing about the community feedback there. More on the Arch staking side, we are finalizing our first iteration on the mechanics there, in terms of understanding the design elements and coming up with the best design elements for us for an MVP and also for the vision. Once we have that fleshed out, probably over the next week or two, we're going to be sending that out to the community, and we would love your feedback on any of the aspects there. So please take a look, provide us with any feedback of the mechanics that we're coming up with. in the next week or two.
Awesome. Sounds good. So that concludes it for the marketing and biz dev update. Stay tuned to our Discord. Is a great place to get updates on all things marketing. Also, our Twitter is constantly moving with information. So tune into both of those two places if you'd like to stay in the loop. Again, big things coming on Monday, and Rafa's staying pretty hush about it. But again, Twitter and Discord are probably the places to get that alpha first. We'll move into our next topic, which is our nerdy topic. And this is, what was that? Sorry. All right, maybe I heard something. All right, so our nerdy topic. We have a question here, which I'm going to address this to Ross, who's our product manager. And this comes from a Discord question. Again, our nerdy topics are Discord questions that we find might be a little bit more technical, or asked from an audience member, a community member that's a little bit more technical. And so these are questions that maybe sit in the back of your head sometimes, and we like to make them a little bit more transparent. So the question is, in terms of with leverage on Archimedes, the leverage yield comes from, so the user identifying that they understand this first portion of things, but the leverage yield comes from holding an outsized amount of OUSD for the depositor. So after swapping 3 CRV for OUSD, is the OUSD being used somewhere else, or is it just held in the contract? So this is more of like a security concern question, as far as how Archimedes is utilizing the funds that are, what do you say, for the user, the user's funds, we'll say, or delegated to the user.
So there's kind of two questions there. First one, yes, yield is generated just by holding the borrowed OUSD. That's pretty much where all of the yield within the position comes from. OUSD being yield-bearing stablecoin, so you get 5%, roughly 5% APY on that, and then obviously leverage, so you can get much higher. To the second question, no, the borrowed OUSD is not used anywhere else. It stays and is stored within our vault generating yield until the time at which the position is closed, either by expiry or manually by the user. And then the user just claims the collateral and interest earned from OUSD then.
Awesome. So it sounds pretty, I mean, well, for me, I'm like, it sounds pretty straightforward. But hopefully it makes sense to everybody else. Pretty straightforward, I think. But yeah, we have a Q&A session at the end of this Agora. So if any questions arise, feel free to ask them, and we'll be happy to answer. Just like this question that we're reading right now. All right, so we're going to move into our deep dive of the day. And this is revisiting the Archimedes Flywheel. So this is a concept that we've constructed. I would say the groundworks for Archimedes, just how Archimedes works as a whole, and what makes it so that Archimedes benefits both borrowers and lenders. So we actually have a great thread on this that we shared on Twitter. I'll make that available in our Discord at the end of today's Agora, in case you'd like to check up on that, because much of what we talk about right now is going to be something that's been mentioned in that. So Rafa, if you don't mind, I'd like to pick on you a little bit here, and if you could answer some of my questions about Archimedes specific to this flywheel, that'd be great.
Let's do it.
All right. So in this concept of the Archimedes flywheel, what specifically would it be that's needed, or what is it that activates the flywheel, if you could?
Yeah, so it's a lot of the flywheel will be dependent on we're a two-sided marketplace, right? So we have borrowers and lenders. Lenders deposited into Curve will start the flywheel. So they enable basically our activity of borrowing. So let's say we have $5 million in the Curve pool. Roughly 60% of that is what we can lend to borrowers. Borrowers will then lend 60% of that fund, which is $3 million. They will pay a fee on top of that. That fee paid by the borrowers will then boost that Flywheel, because we will then be able to pay LPs with share of revenue from those borrowers paying their fees. So high level, this is what activates the Flywheel, right? So LPs deposited into um, into a curve pool, and then borrowers borrowing from LPs and paying fees. And one added layer that we're going to be adding soon will be the Arch staking mechanism, which we will enable users to stake Arch and receive boosted rewards on top of that. So either LPs or anybody holding Arch outside of the OP users. So yeah, this is pretty much high level what activates the Flywheel. Does that answer your question, Alvin, or do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, no, that does answer it. I think that allows me to kind of lead into this next portion of things. So I'll kind of wrap up on that. It's what we kind of just discussed there is that to activate this the Flywheel, we get these LPs to deposit to our curve pool, and with liquidity in the curve pool, we are then allowed to lend out leverage to borrowers, and that pretty much activates that first cycle of the Flywheel. Correct me if I'm wrong. But moving on to the second portion of things, let's say we wanted to do another cycle, so we need to make more leverage available to people. Rafa, can you help me out? When can users take leverage with Archimedes?
Yeah, so we gave leverage just to reduce the risk for LPs. We want to avoid the pool from getting imbalanced, although we don't control fully. The way that we can influence that is by getting the amount of leverage available. So we don't want the pools to go over about 60-70% in terms of balance there. And whenever we have liquidity available below that threshold, we then create rounds of leverage. We typically target Mondays and Thursdays for rounds of leverage available. We usually run what we call a Greek auction around the rounds. So it starts with a certain price for leverage. So one Arch buys X amounts of lvUSD, so the user can open their position by buying lvUSD through Arch. And then over time, that value of one Arch to X lvUSD increases, which means the leverage is becoming cheaper for the user. So yeah, that's when the user can actually open leverage. Once we have enough balance in the pool and liquidity available, the Archimedes team then makes it available either on Mondays or Thursdays at 12 p.m. PST time, which is California time. So yeah, stay tuned. There is also a way for you to get notified about the leverage rounds. Sorry, Rostam, you seem to be streaming there. Sorry. There is a bar on top of our website where you can. And sorry, my dogs are barking like crazy here. There is a bar on top of our website where you can actually put your email and get notified about the rounds when we have available. This week, particularly, we did not have leverage available because we did not have enough liquidity to provide to borrowers, which means everything is sold out for now. But hopefully next week we can offer.
Awesome. Okay, so pretty much answers all of that question. We got that leverage rounds are happening on Monday, and then Thursdays. So Mondays and Thursdays for leverage rounds. Leverage is capped, and there is a Greek auction when there's leverage rounds. So during these leverage rounds, there's an auction for the available leverage, and it works as a Dutch auction. We're calling it a Greek auction. Cool. So if you could answer then a kind of follow-up to the leverage round question, why is the leverage capped?
Yeah, so we always try to keep the pool balance at a certain threshold. So we cap the leverage so there isn't an imbalance in the pool. So we try to keep the pool balance between 60 to 70%. Around that value, and like I said, that's the way that we can kind of to the best of our ability, control the balance in the pool, and in the sense that lvUSD will not go below 1, and then LPs will not incur too much slippage from getting out of the pool. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Just reducing the risk for LPs.
Gotcha. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So keeping that leverage capped helps keep the liquidity pool healthy on curve, mitigate some of that risk for LPs. Nice. Cool. Last portion of the flywheel. So at this point, considering how the flywheel would work, we got liquidity coming in, borrowers taking out liquidity, a portion of the yields from borrowers being sent to, which we didn't kind of mention the treasury, but I should mention that, to the treasury, and then to LPs. And so we got a full on cycle at this point. LPs are earning a nice yield, so more LPs come in, we increase the leverage cap, and now there's more borrowers able to step into the ecosystem. So at this point, we're kind of flying. We want to look into a little bit more on the Arch token, because I think that would kind of be like the next question. Like, so LPs are happy, leverage takers are happy with their lvUSD yields being boosted, but what about this Arch token that lvUSD LPs are earning? Can you speak more to those rewards, Rafa?
Yeah, of course. So whenever an LP provides liquidity to the pool and they stake on in the pool, if they don't stake, just calling out very clearly here, if they don't stake, they won't receive rewards. So you need to stake to receive the rewards. Whenever they stake, they will be eligible for Arch emissions or whatever tokens are being emitted to the curve gauge for LP rewards. Currently, we only have Arch emissions, and they're getting proportionally to the time they're in the pool in a specific week, and proportional to also time, also known as blocks in blockchain here. So, or the amount of liquidity also blocks within the pool. So the dynamic emissions are of Arch to the curve pool are defined by parameters in the market. So the amount of APY that is being paid to other curve pools, other stablecoin pools actually. So we run an algorithm every week to measure the APY that the market is paying. So we want to be competitive with the market. Then we also measure what is the Arch price and what is the TVL in the pool to basically calculate back the Arch volume that will be emitted to that pool. So every week we adjust the emissions to make sure we're attractive, and while at the same time reducing the overinflation of Arch. So that's how we reward the LPs. So we want to make sure we're keeping attractive with Arch emissions. We're also working currently on a share of the revenue to the LPs. Potentially, we're also thinking of making that available more through the Arch staking rather than the LP side. So sharing a little bit of real yield there with our LPs and Arch stakers potentially in the future. And we're also working very closely with partners to see if we can also diversify the source of yield there, potentially with governance token from our partners, maybe with bribes from CRV or any other AMMs and their ecosystem we go into in the future. So stay tuned. Very exciting stuff in the cooks, being cooked right now.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Rafa. Yeah, very exciting stuff. If I were to kind of like summarize all of that in a very summarized type of way, it would just be that, LPs are adequately rewarded for lending to Archimedes. So LPs get the rewards, they get the incentives, because without these LPs, then our leverage takers, our borrowers, can't do their things, and they can't enjoy their yields. And of course, when borrowers are happy, LPs become that much happier. So that's just how the cookie crumbles and how the Archimedes flywheel spins. So that is our deep dive into the Archimedes flywheel, which also leads us into a community-led Q&A session. So what do we mean by community-led Q&A? Well, we're going to hand the mic over to you, our listeners, and if there are any questions that you have at this time, we'll answer those live right now as opposed to in Discord chat, which we can always do, of course. But we'll answer those questions now. If there are no questions, we'll, of course, conclude today's Agora and be on with our exciting, secretive updates coming on Monday. All right, so
feel free to unmute yourself or send in the chat. We're happy to read the questions too, if you're shy. So I don't see anybody writing or unmuted folks. Owen.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, yep. Looks like that's gonna be it. So yeah, we'll be closing down today's Agora. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned here on Discord and Twitter for updates, including something happening on Monday, other than a leverage round potentially. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Again, these Agoras happen every first Thursday of the month.